Hello, welcome to the Seneca Scout.
Hello, and welcome to the Seneca Scout.
And welcome to the Seneca Scout.
Welcome to the Seneca Scout.
Welcome to the Seneca Scout.
And welcome to the Seneca Scout.
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 I'm Zach Donaldson.
I'm Natalie Camilli.
Matthew Butterfield.
I'm Nick Schuster.
Claire Williams.
Trevor Wigan.
Alex Osmond.
Andrew Cummings.
Aiden Smith.
James Rickard.
Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is Parker Logue and welcome to a special edition of the Seneca Scout. Not even a quarantine will keep us from giving you your national and international news, along with some little tips and tricks that you can use to occupy yourself during the quarantine. Now, we start off with a story about the NFL, so here's to you, Alex.
The NFL officially began its legal tampering period on March 16th, which means that free agency has begun. This has been a remarkably active free agency period, with big-name stars signing with different teams. As well as these countless big-name signings, a few blockbuster trades occurred recently. The Minnesota Vikings traded wide receiver Stephon Diggs to the Buffalo Bills, and the Houston Texans traded who is arguably the best wide receiver in football, DeAndre Hopkins, to the Arizona Cardinals in what has been the biggest trade of the offseason so far. Looking locally, your Pittsburgh Steelers were also active in this period. Alongside the signings of guard Stephen Wisniewski and tight end Eric Ebron, they traded with their division rivals the Baltimore Ravens for defensive end Chris Wormley. Now, here's Nick Heemer with more information on these signings around the league.
Thank you, Alex. Well, continuing with NFL free agency, there were multiple huge moves that shook the NFL world in as little as 2 days, such as Stephon Diggs signing with the Buffalo Bills, Phillip Rivers joining the Indianapolis Colts, and Teddy Bridgewater heading to Carolina to play with the Panthers. But the one that stood out the most was six-time Super Bowl champion Tom Brady signing with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on a 2-year, $50 million deal. And there's much more to come, as that was only the beginning of the free agency period. Off to you, Jonah.
The Supreme Court ruled 6-3 against a Kansas man claiming his constitutional rights were infringed upon. James Caller is a man who was sentenced to death for murder, and his Kansas court held him criminally responsible, ignoring his defense on insanity. The defense of insanity is claiming that the person who committed the crime doesn't know the difference between right and wrong, and therefore cannot be held criminally responsible. However, in the state of Kansas, the defense based on insanity is only applied during sentencing, and someone who is found guilty will continue to be held responsible, no matter their mental state. The result of the Supreme Court case might influence other states to follow suit, with Kansas's law to bar the defense of insanity.
Well, that was our stories for national and international news. Now, I'm sure a problem that many of you are having is just being bored, being cooped up in your house. But fortunately, our next couple of stories have to do with activities that you can do to occupy the time. Starting with the music industry. Here's to you, Andrew.
Thanks, Parker. The latest album from musician, actor, and screenwriter Donald Glover has just been released. Glover, aka Childish Gambino, released his new album, 3/15/20, last Saturday. The album had previously been posted online as a looped live stream on March 15th, but it was only available for 12 hours. After the live stream ended, a timer appeared counting down to March 21st. The release was a surprise for most fans, as there was no promotion except for the live stream and countdown. The album has received mostly positive reviews and is now available on all major platforms. Now off to Zach Donaldson.
Thanks, Andrew. With the recent cancellation of school and stay-at-home orders as a result of the coronavirus, I've been taking advantage of my time by binging as many shows, games, and songs as possible. One of my favorite things I've done so far is committing to listening to Kanye West's entire discography, comprising of 9 studio albums and over 80 songs. Undertaking this journey has given me a lot of insight and a refreshing new take on one of my favorite artists. I had the opportunity to listen to some of the fundamental shifts the music industry has taken over the past 2 decades, whether it was the more traditionally rooted hip-hop of Kanye's early days, the rise of synth-pop beats in his 808 and a Heartbreak album, or his gospel-inspired take in his most recent album, Jesus is King. I've also been able to walk away with some of my own new takes on his work, like my firm belief that My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy is Kanye's most overrated album, and Family Business is his finest track to date. I highly recommend you guys take a second look at some of your favorite movies, albums, and games over this break, and you may be surprised to find some of the new insight and perspectives you'll gain on them, and I hope you all stay safe and connected. Off to you, Hayden.
Thanks, Zach, for that story. To help with the long break everyone is currently experiencing, movie studios are seeing it as a good time to start experimenting with digital releases. Disney is adding many more shows and movies to their streaming platform Disney Plus earlier than anticipated. Movies such as Onward and Frozen 2 have already been added to the service earlier this month. In addition to movies being added to Disney Plus, some movies that were recently in theaters or had been slated to be put in theaters are being released for digital purchase early. This includes movies such as Sonic the Hedgehog and Trolls World Tour. Now off to you, Hagen.
Thanks, Matthew. Amazon has recently added a new section to their Amazon Prime Video service called Prime Video Cinema. Due to many theaters closing down, Amazon has now started to work towards offering several in-theater movies for viewing at home. Some of these movies are only available for rent, while some are actually available for early digital purchase. They currently offer The Hunt, Emma, and The Invisible Man for rent, and offer Onward, Bloodshot, The Way Back, and Birds of Prey for early purchase. Amazon has been consistently adding new movies to this collection since they started, and will likely continue to do so while theaters remain closed. And now, over to Nathan.
Thank you, Hayden. Earlier this month, organization Reporters Without Borders released an uncensored library within popular video game Minecraft. The library itself contains articles from journalists who have been jailed or killed from several countries with low ranks on the World Freedom Index. The included countries are Mexico, Egypt, Saudi Arabia, Russia, and Vietnam. The project was done in order to get citizens information that would be otherwise inaccessible within their home countries. The library, which has nearly 200 books, has been accessed roughly 40,000 times as of March 17th. Now off to you, Matt.
Thanks, Nick. Just releasing on Monday, March 23rd, Half-Life Alyx was a massive hit and a huge push forward for the VR medium in gaming. Being the first Half-Life game in 13 years, fans of the Half-Life series were understandably stoked to get their hands on this game, and actually ended up selling out Valve's proprietary top-of-the-line Index VR headset worldwide. And, adding on top of the excitement, this game had released at the opportune time with self-quarantine being heavily pushed for across the globe. Having my hands on this game, I can say with positivity that this is the best VR game I have personally ever played. Just the sheer production value in combination with an already intricate and interesting universe makes this game something worth looking into if you own a VR headset. Going forwards, this game could have a massive impact on the VR industry, accounting for a colossal 103,000 Index headsets being sold in just the first quarter of this year, which is over 100% increase from the previous quarter. And again, if you have a VR-capable PC, I highly recommend checking this game out. Now, off to you, James.
Thank you, Matt. That was very interesting. Now, since this quarantine started, many people seem to feel like they're lacking a lot of social connection and communication with people that they previously had. Now, thanks to Discord, a computer and smartphone app that allows people to communicate with video calls, text messages, or just voice calls, people are able to seamlessly communicate just like we weren't locked in our own homes. Since the quarantine began, the company has expanded the platform's usability. Now, users are able to join up to 50 people in one voice call for things like schoolwork, business, and everything in between. Here are some words from some Seneca Valley students on how this communication software has impacted them during their time locked in at home.
Yeah, so I use Discord. I use it for schoolwork a lot, so if I'm struggling with something and I know someone else is in the same class as me, we can kind of just collaborate about ideas, or I can help them get through certain problems, or they can help me get through certain problems. And also, it's just nice to be able to talk to people, you know, because we're kind of all like our own bubbles right now. So having a way to talk to people, even though we're not like physically with them, is nice.
So basically, I get to stay home. And that's not all too different from my current life, because I use Discord every day, and I get to talk to my friends, which I may not be able to see them, but being able to interact with them to me is enough, and playing video games with them while I'm on a call with them, like that also helps with that interactivity, and I feel like I can connect with them even without being physically there.
And now over to Natalie with an interesting story about an author that many of you may know.
Thanks, James. Speaking of books, looking back at old favorites could be a great way to stay entertained whilst being stuck inside all day. Diary of a Wimpy Kid is a graphic novel series written by author Jeff Kenny. This novel series has been beloved by children for years. The books are written from the perspective of middle schooler Greg Heffley. Kenny has been in USA Today, the New York Times, and Wall Street Journal for his best-selling book series. The Diary of a Wimpy Kid series has even received 4 films, the newest one being released in 2017. There are currently 16 books within the series, the newest installment, Diary of a Wimpy Kid Wrecking Ball, also being released in 2017. The series, however, is still ongoing, with author Jeff Kenny still planning on writing more future installments for the series. On to you, Nick.
Thanks, Natalie, for that update on the Diary of the Wimpy Kid. So my story today is I usually give you the grim economic news that's been, plaguing our nation due to this unprecedented time that we're in. So I've decided to go with something a little bit lighter and give you my 5 book recommendations for this week while you're at home in quarantine. So let's get this start right off the bat. So my first one is right here. It is Different Seasons by Stephen King. It's a collection of different short stories, including The Shawshank Redemption, The Body, which was made into a movie called Stand By Me. It's, some stories are more darker than others, but overall, it's a very fun book. If you're looking for something, that you can sort of pick up and put back down, it's that kind of book for you. My second choice here is a classic, of course, All Quiet on the Western Front, which is a World War I epic, which describes German soldiers' extreme physical and mental stress during the war and their detachment from civilian life. That's by Eric Ramik, and it's also a very, very good one. A little bit darker though than Different Seasons. Different Seasons is a little bit of a lighter book in some parts. And then my third choice here for all of you is George Orwell's famous 1984, which is a really, really good book, timeless classic, really, really good. It's basically, it's a book that takes place in an imagined future. It was written in 1948, I believe, and it's really basically the world has fallen into perpetual war, omnipresent government surveillance and propaganda. If you've ever heard the terms "war is peace," "freedom is slavery," "ignorance is strength," and which are actually on the back right here, it's very much it's very much along those lines. So yeah, just a very, very interesting hypothetical. Many people have considered this book as a comment on what could happen in the future. And it could still happen. It's, still used widely in literature circles today. So, if you're catching up on your classics, All Quiet on the Western Front and 1984 are the way to go. So that's what I have for you today. Let's go over to Trevor to see what people are doing for fun during these unprecedented times. I'm Nicholas Schuster. Thanks for watching.
Thank you, Nick. Some people are staying very creative while stuck at home. So what are they doing to stay sane, you may ask? Well, they're working on projects, spending more time with family, playing board games, and they're even taking walks to stay active. Some kids are coming up with their own games and making their own obstacle courses inside their house. One neighborhood decided to come up with a St. Patrick's Day game, having kids hunt for shamrocks. People are also watching Netflix and YouTube, catching up on great movies and videos, just like this one. For more, go check out our Seneca Valley TV YouTube channel. We'd love to hear what you're doing during this time to keep busy. Stay home and stay safe. Now, before we wrap up this broadcast, we'd like to take a moment and hear from our producer.
Those were some really interesting stories this week. Thanks for tuning in to the at-home edition of the Seneca Scout, and we'll be seeing you next week with another special edition broadcast. I'm Claire Williams, and this was the Seneca Scout.